This episode is brought to you by Starry. When you drink Starry Lemon Lime Soda, every sip is a win. Perfect for game time or anytime. It's a crisp, refreshing lemon lime soda that's caffeine-free and bursting with flavor that makes you go, ah. Starry hits different. Find it in stores or online today.
Time traveling is just too dangerous. It's better that I devote myself to studying the other great mystery of the universe. Women.
Hello and welcome to Unequal Sequel. My name is Dave and I'm one of the two hosts of this bewitching podcast.
And I'm Rich, and I'm the other host of this bewitching podcast. Think of me as Rosemary and Dave as her baby. I'm not sure if my neighbours are witches, and he might be the son of the devil.
Yes, I am. The premise of Unequal Sequel is very simple. We ask our guests their best ever sequel, worst ever sequel, and finally their dream sequel.
And of course, we often drift off course and talk about other things. Sometimes movies, sometimes life in general. It's fun.
We also have to point out we do love to drop big fat spoilers because we talk about movies and we go into depth. So, if we mention a film you haven't seen and you don't want it ruined, just press stop, press the little flick forward button, wherever it is, go do your stamp collecting, come back, and it will all be okay. Because on today's episode, we are joined by Tom Davies.
Tom Davies is a brilliant podcaster. You might know him from his mental health-based podcast, Proper Mental. He was nominated for the British Podcasts Awards this year, and he's also been nominated for the Men's Health Pod of the Year this year too. It's a brilliant podcast. Tom is a fantastic guy. We've really enjoyed talking to him.
Yeah, we're very excited to sit down with Tom and discuss all things sequels with him.
These are Tom Davies's Unequal Sequels. Enjoy!
Can you remember the first sequel you were getting excited about?
I can. For me, it was Gremlins 2.
Oh,
nice.
And yeah. And I remember going in the summer holidays. It was always with any sort of cinema trips when I was a kid. It was always like it only happened once in the summer holidays, and that was it. It was like a one a year thing, maybe a Christmas one, but
yeah.
it was a one-off thing. So it was always a massive deal. And I remember Gremlins 2, going with all my cousins in the summer holiday and being very excited about it, but also a little bit nervous because Gremlins 1, when you're a kid, is quite scary, right? Like
very.
It's And I remember really wanting to see this film, but also thinking like, oh my God, what if I'm like trapped in the cinema getting petrified for an hour and a half, which probably added to the excitement and the nerves going in. But it's the second one's a lot tamer, isn't it? It's much more sort of aimed at the family. Yeah. So that was probably the first one. And then I was thinking like after that, most of my memories of getting excited about sequels were being let down by them. Going through, and which is weird really, because I love a sequel and I love a trilogy even more.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. I think they're great, but when I really think about it, there's just so many times I've been kind of let down, and it's like, why do I say that I love sequels? Because there's as many bad ones as there is good ones, I think. So
even when you were young,
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And I think the beauty when I was young of like discovering sequels is like quite often when you're young, you don't know that there's a sequel, right? So if I wasn't seeing it, if it had come out before my time, or if I hadn't seen it on the television show, the Saturday morning, the film show chart thing or whatever it was, you'd be in the video shop and just be like, oh, I didn't know there was a second one. And when you're younger, you also don't know that a lot of second ones like aren't very good or have absolutely nothing to do with the first one. But that's probably my early memory of sequels, is being in video shops and going, oh my God, there's a Rocky 2. I had no idea. And just excitedly like taking it home. And so rather than anything that coming out ahead of time is, discovering ones that were already out.
Especially the Disney straight to video sequels, and I thought, oh my god, Aladdin 2 is going to be amazing, or Pocahontas 2.
Yeah, and then it just not being at all. Yeah, I do think there's rules, like unofficial rules or my own rules for sequels. And well, I just don't
like rules.
I don't count anything like you just mentioned there. Anything that's just like a cash-in remake. Anything where there's not like the original cast involved in some way, or anything where they've just basically pinched a name and just made something. Until I was doing a bit of like reading up to come on this, I had no idea there was a Kindergarten Cop 2. I had no idea that existed, and there you go. I mean, that doesn't need to exist. I can't see why there's any... Why do people think these are a good idea, And
money.
Well, yeah. Can it have made that much? I mean...
Would that have made?
Yeah, I suppose it depends on where... If it was like... what's the movie where they got all the... There's loads of them, and they get all the famous... old actors in the Stallone.
Expendables.
I started watching that again last night. Me and my missus watched the first one again.
And yeah, I mean they're
first
all right.
One's quite fun, and yeah, it's steady decline from there, right?
Yeah, but I suppose like that kind of like Dolph kind of came back into popular consensus with those, didn't he? And then obviously Creed 2 and stuff like that. So I suppose with him in Kindergarten Cop 2, it depends whether that was before or after Expendables, over how much money they would have made. I can't imagine many people were saying, oh, Kindergarten Cop 2, I love it.
I haven't seen it, but I imagine it's just exactly the same as Kindergarten Cop 1. He's an undercover police officer who's trying to find one of the parents who's a bad person.
I would guess. Yeah, I would guess.
And it probably won't have any of the fun. The good thing about Kindergarten Cop is Arnie's one-liners, basically, isn't it? Like, that's what everyone remembers. Like, who is your daddy and what does he do?
It's not a tumor.
They won't have any of that.
Yeah, that's it. It's the novelty version of Arnie. Arnie can get away with a lot, can't he? Because like he just kind of, I don't know, he's so important to so many people's childhoods and love of films growing up. He can put a foot wrong, and you can watch an awful film but still really enjoy Arnie in an awful Arnie film, and there's something quite special about that, I think.
I was trying to think of bad Arnold Schwarzenegger films there, and even his bad ones are quite good compared to other people's films.
Yeah, definitely. And there's always that benefit of, even if you watched it now and thought, it really isn't that good, when you were watching them, then it's like, this is
The Running Man,
awesome,
when you're like 11, is literally the best thing.
Yeah, that's it, man. That was my jam. Yeah, very much so. I remember blagging my very old granddad to rent Predator for me at quite a young age, and and my mum would have been like, "No, you're not old enough to see that." And then my granddad somehow kind of like just got bombarded into it, and coming home from the video shop like, "I've got Predator. This is going to be amazing." But all that genre of like the genre of sort of those 80s. Big explosions and cheesy one-liners, and that's just my youth. That's my childhood. That's my film experience, and I'll always be soft on them, no matter what. It's just memories, isn't it?
Tom, what is your best ever sequel?
My best ever sequel, the one I've gone for is Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Solid.
I feel very confident with it, to be honest. But there's just so many aspects of it that are really, really positive. As a film, it's really good. As a follow-up, it's really good. It's standalone, it's fantastic. I think it allows Marvel from that point to kind of level up and be a bit better. I've got a few ideas about that, but I went into it not expecting much at all. I didn't really like the first Captain America film.
That's
it was
fair.
kind of like all right-ish. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't everything it could have been. And I wasn't overly sold on that first phase, really, up until the Avengers movie when they all came together. That's when I kind of went, right, okay, that's like, I'm on board with this now. I'm all in. And then I didn't really know what to expect with the Winter Soldier, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the tone of it. I loved that it put more depth into Cap, I think, which is what was missing for me in the first film. It made me care about him. He became my favourite Avenger in the Winter Soldier, and I still stand by that. Still stand by that now. But yeah, there's just loads to like about it. It's like a superhero movie that's not really a superhero movie. It's more like a Bourne film, or like one of the early Daniel Craig Bond films, to the point where I watched it the other night, and it's just before they go for like the big fight towards the end, and he nips off and steals that suit from the museum and pops it on, and until that point, he's just been like in a hoodie and jeans, and I've just bought into it. I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is really good. I'm glad I picked it. And then he throws his suit on, and it almost spoils it. You almost go, you look a bit daft there, mate. You're kind of overdressed. You're doing great in the jeans. You know, he didn't need to put the comic book suit on. That's how much of a sort of like a realistic spy movie it is, rather than a superhero movie. And but yeah, I got a real kick out of what they did with it, I think.
Oh, were you a big Marvel fan going into these films? Did you read the comics when you were young, or just when the movies start coming out going, okay, I'll watch these now, see what the hype's about?
Yeah, I'd never read the comics at all. There was a lot of fuss about Iron Man when that came out. That kind of felt like a lot of people were excited for that. And I love a blockbuster. I love a summer blockbuster. So, and Iron Man, I thought it was good. No more than that. I didn't come away thinking like, oh, I need, another.
I need 34 more of these.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it certainly. I didn't see that scope to it, but it was good. It was solid. And I thought the first Thor, again, solid. It was a good film, but I wasn't necessarily, again, I wasn't sold. Yeah, like I say, until they. I think when your main hero is like so big and bright and colourful and all this stuff going on, the bad guy has to be really on it. The worst Marvel films, I think, are where they get the bad person wrong, and it doesn't match, it doesn't fit, it doesn't sit together. And that's kind of how I felt. But for the Avengers, it was like, okay, this is big enough now, right? There's a reason for all these people to come together, and they're still not the brightest, loudest, brashest people on screen. So, okay, I'm okay with this. And that sold it to me. But, the change of tone going into Captain America, Winter Soldier, I didn't see that coming at all. I really, really didn't. And, I really liked it.
Is it because of the cast? Do you reckon they put better characters along with Captain America? So, like Scarlett Johansson's not Winter Soldier, Black Widow, or Nick Fury, like Samuel Jackson. It just makes it a better film because the cast members are better. Am I being horrible to the original cast here and that?
No, not at all. I'm with you there all the way. Yeah, it certainly adds something to it, and it really like shows more of Cap that I really, really like. So I'm not like Tony Stark. He's got too much ego. He relies too much on money. He's essentially like an arms dealer, and I know that he goes on to make amends for that, but I'm a working class lad, and I'm always going to struggle with like gross displays of wealth. I think like, you got this big tower in New York, and then there's how many people in New York are living like below the poverty line. Like, you could stop building weapons and help your local community. So he's always bugged me. And then Thor is like Thor's a god, and he looks amazing, and he's got a cool hammer and lightning, and he's never had any sort of adversity, to the point where he goes on to have a bit of a existential crisis. And so I've kind of never really bought into that. But Cap's just a good bloke, isn't he? He's just like, his moral compass is so good. And I really respect him for it. He puts himself second to live a clear, honest life, and he stands by his values. And I really like that. And they kind of, even in the film with Scarlett Johansson, like, they could have turned that into a bit of a will they, won't they thing. And I felt watching it the other night that the way she played it was like she wanted a bit of will they, won't they, And Cap was like, you just knew he wasn't going to do it. I love that. He was not going to compromise their friendship or the mission or her feelings, like he wasn't going to just kind of take advantage of her. And even when there's one bit in the car and she says this is Scarlett Johansson, as Black Widow says to him, what do you want me to be? And Cap's answer is, a friend. That just sums up what a good man he is, right? Like, I just think that's what it's all about. And I'm all in on. A lot of people say he's too earnest, don't they? A lot of people don't like that about him, but I'm a firm believer that if something triggers you, it's because it's holding up a mirror, and you need to look at yourself and think, why does this make me so angry? And I think a lot of people see Captain America, and he shows the shortcuts in their personality. They think, I can never be that good. I'm not that good a person, and I think it bugs them, and that's why they don't like it.
I think it's great that people can relate to a super soldier the most out of that crew. So if you've got the man who turns into a big green monster, like you said, you've got the four, the Norwegian gods, you've got the Iron Man, the billionaire eccentric guy, and then we just got this guy that got basically stuck with a needle, and now he's super strong, and we're like, oh yeah, we can relate with him. Yeah, that's it. That's the most relatable one. We'll go with him. Plus, he grows a great beard.
He really does.
It's not so much Captain America in the movies, but Captain America in the comics, I think, got a general bit of dislike because he's so American. Like he's just like still firmly believes in one true God, even though he's met three. You know, like you know, that kind of so blindingly stars and stripes. Not that doesn't come across so much in the movies though. He's not more palatable in the movies than he is in the comics.
Yeah, it's like a fish out of water thing that kind of works that in the Marvel films. I think that's why the Thor film, the first one, is really good, and then why it works in the second one. And also, like you said, this one, the bad guy is actually a decent bad guy. Were you disappointed when they made him good?
Yes and no. Yes and no. One thing I loved about it, like with the Winter Soldier guy, is that I love those films, right? Because you always know the good guy's got to win. You always know he's got to win. And there's kind of like an unwritten rule, isn't there, where they sort of like, it looks like he might not win, but you kind of know he's going to win. But when like Cap and Bucky are fighting, you do generally think like, he's met his match here. You know, like I could see a way this film ended where Cap didn't win because he's so, you know, he is so hard, and he compared to the other villains, there isn't that sort of, I don't know what the way I look, that sort of cartoony vibe to him. He's just a nasty piece of work initially, isn't he? And there's something really like about how tough he is, and how mean he is.
And that's exactly what's good about sequels sometimes, especially if it's like the second in a trilogy, because you've got that jeopardy that the good guys might not win. You know, they could pull an empire. Yeah. You know, it could have been a case like they could have done this movie where, you know, they know they've got another one coming. It could have been, you know, Cap doesn't win. Yeah. You know, there's potential.
That's it. Do you know, I was trying to think of other films that do that, you know, who have the bad guy where you think like, oh, I don't know if they're going to beat this guy. And the first one that popped to mind, Lethal Weapon 4.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at like Jet Li is just this kung fu back-flipping badass dude, and Riggs and Murtaugh are very still much like the 80s Riggs and Murtaugh, and they're old and they're getting out of breath in fight scenes, and you're kind of watching it, and by this point like I'm all in on Riggs and Murtaugh, like they're my boys, and they're kind of watching it thinking, oh, you've met your match here, lads. Like, well, how are you going to beat this guy? He's too fast, he's too quick, he's too clever. And but that was the other example, but there's very much that in the Winter Soldier. You're thinking, what are you going to do here, Cap? You know, how are you going to do this and not sacrifice that good streak?
That's the thing, isn't it? How do you win the right way?
Exactly that, yeah. The only thing I wasn't too keen about it is because you kind of think like they're such good mates, and like when we came out of lockdown in 2020 and I bumped into a mate in the supermarket and they had long hair and a mask on, I still knew it was my mate, right? And there is that kind of thing where the first time he turns up, you're like, oh, come on, surely you can see who it is. And he's genuinely shocked when he finds out in the back half of the film that he finds out it's Bucky, and you think like, oh, that to me didn't quite sit, but I'm really really picking there. But he's a good bad guy, the Winter Soldier, and a good guy later on. So you know, we'll take it.
What's your favourite scene in this one?
Oh, there's a few. I think early when he's fighting with the first time he throws the shield and Bucky catches it. Yeah, that's a bit of a.
He just does that.
That's
good
a bit of a moment. Yeah, and or you know, like right at the start when he's running around the boat, because I think that's when you know that something different is happening. That's the first time when I kind of thought, oh, okay, they're taking this somewhere I wasn't expecting. Everything's darker. He's got a new suit.
The suit is great as well. Like you were saying earlier,
fantastic.
You believe into that suit until he changes into the bright blue costume.
Yeah, it's not as comic booky. The fighting's more aggressive. You know, he gets a knife and he throws it through someone's hand, and you think, okay, this is Captain America stabbing people. We are in new territory here. And then he fights George St. Pierre, you know, and you believe that as a fight, and he's, you know, arguably the greatest mixed martial artist of all time, and you kind of buy the fact that they're fighting. And there's a lot about that opening scene that kind of sets the tone for the rest. That's the moment where you think, we're in new territory here. This is something different is going to happen in this movie. So yeah, probably that opening scene running around the boat. That's really cool.
It's pretty cool, isn't it? Are you happy where they took Captain after this, America, with the Civil War story and the Infinity War and Endgame and how it's ended for him? Do you think he's going to come back up at all, Chris Evans, as that character, or have they officially handed it over to Anthony Mackie now? Are they going to trust Anthony Mackie with the shield?
I think they've handed it over, haven't they? I was really happy. I loved Civil War. I thought that was brilliant. I watched that again after watching Winter Soldier at the start of the week for this. I was like, I have to watch Civil War now. Me and my wife watched it last night. Yeah, it's I loved what they where that went. And again, you know, Cap has to double down on that on the good part of his personality, on his on his beliefs, even if it means losing friends, and I kind of respect that. But yeah, happy with all of it. Happy that he has to go on the run and he turns up with that amazing beard at just the right time. Later on, it's just like everything about it is. When he turns up, you instantly just feel a bit better. If you're worried about the Avengers and suddenly Cap turns up, you kind of go like, okay, they're going to be all right. They're going to be all right. And yeah. But I suppose something else that I've noticed through watching them both is that I think Cap always has it a little bit tougher than the rest of the Avengers. Like, it's always him who gets beaten up and has to take that split second to kind of do a exasperated look or catch a breath before, he's always a little bit behind. He hasn't got a suit or lightning. So whenever anyone's racing to fight, he's always sort of coming back into it after being beaten up. And I think there's something, I really like that about him as well, that he doesn't have it too easy, but he still manages to get the job done.
Yeah. Do you think that Winter Soldier and Civil War, that he both kind of loses in both of them? So there is a sense of empire a little bit in both of them. Like, the second one is the fall of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra has been there for however long, and then the third one, the disbandment of the Avengers, pretty much. Do you feel that that was two downers in a row, or do you think?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it like that, that's true, isn't it?
That's true. That's his trilogy. Is the first, second, third.
And so much of Cap's story is him, like, it is quite sad, It is quite sad. He's, like, learning to negotiate a different time and, people that he cares about, and no one knows him. People that, he says about Peggy, doesn't he? She was the only person who knew him. So his whole story is quite sad, really, when you think about it. I suppose that's why there's that nice payoff at the end of Endgame, where we get to see him old and he's like, I had a nice life, I'm done. And that's that, he got a different version of a happy ending, I think, after.
He finally got his happy ending, and his last dance with Peggy.
That's it, because he was forced to live a very lonely existence, right?
It must be dull.
Yeah, all the time, and you kind of feel for him. And I think Chris Evans really gets that across. There was a time when I would have been a bit skeptical about him taking me on an emotional ride as an actor, maybe, but I think with Cap, he sold him to me. He really did, yeah. Yeah.
So with the Marvel films, were you always first in the cinema to see them, or did you let them linger for a while? Was it a DVD when they came out, kind of thing, or were you there early?
We always go. My wife and I, we always go when a new one drops.
Is it a date night?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, if we can get a sitter, we'll go as soon as they come out. But normally we sometimes have to wait a few weeks to get a sitter, and you end up seeing it on like the small screen that's tucked in the bottom corner next to the toilets at the cinema. But we do try and go and see all of them, and I'm surprised that they've not been consistent recently. This new phase is not great, and still I think. I remember going to see the Avengers, the first one, and absolutely loving it, and realising just how big this thing was going to be. And at that time, I would have been around about 30, in my early 30s. And I remember saying to my wife, that was amazing, but it's probably going to take him about 10 years to wrap this up. I wonder if I'll still give a shit when I'm like 40. Will I still be getting excited about superhero films? And sure enough, I was. And, it was a real big deal, how they rounded that up. It was fantastic. But now I'm thinking like, that's a long time. I might have to wait till I'm 50 for this to pay off, and it's like, will I really give a shit when I'm 50 about what the Avengers are up to? And at the moment, I'm not sure I will.
Do you think there's too much like Avengers and Marvel stuff at the moment? They've gone too big on the TV series and the movies, like 4 movies a year and 3 TV series and shorts and stuff. Do you think it's overkilling it?
I think so, yeah. And it feels like there's a certain of like a by numbers rollout. Like I'm done with origin stories. I don't need to see another for anyone. I'm quite happy for them just to kind of like appear and start fighting. Yeah, that's it. I've got no problem with that at all, because the origin stories, the first one of any like possible trilogy is always quite hard going with some of the new ones. It's like, we've done this. It looked different and it was in a different place and there was a slightly different angle on it, but essentially we've done it now enough times. And I just, maybe it would help if they teased a bit more about what was coming, because I really have no idea, not knowing much about the comics. I don't know where it's going. And
very, what's coming next is very kind of, like universe bending, I would suggest. I think we're going in a direction that's very sort of the the space Marvel and the very kind of like, you know, heading into different multiverses and dimensions and things. So it's gonna get weird.
Yeah. Well, I'm up for a bit of weirdness. I'm up for a bit of weirdness.
The way it's going is it's gonna, they're gonna be melon twisting kind of concepts to understand, and it could get very complicated. I can see that happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting. But like, I'm like you. I think I'm kind of on that cusp of being a bit fatigued by the whole thing now.
I think they have to slow down a bit, personally. And I love this. I buy into it every film. I'm always there, straightforward, because I'm an absolute loser.
We do a film podcast, Dave. We've kind of got to. They're all sequels now, right?
Exactly. It's all franchise. Obviously, we're going to get more Winter Soldier in the Thunderbolts. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know anything about that, no.
I've only learnt recently. It's basically Marvel's Suicide Squad.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I can, that sounds all right. I'll
So
dip my toe in
it's the
that.
good bad guys, if that makes sense. The bad guys that have turned good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I can see why the Winter Soldier would work well in that.
And they got Florence Pugh's character, her dad's the Russian guy who plays David Harbour. Zemo's back, the Taskmaster from Black Widow as well, and the woman that Louise Dreyfus plays, Val, who pops up in a few things.
okay.
Oh, and what's Kurt Russell's son's called? The bad Captain America who killed someone.
Yeah, I can't remember what his name is. But I know what you mean.
Wyatt Russell, that's it.
Wyatt Russell.
Is that going to be a film or a TV series?
That's going to be a film.
Oh, okay, yeah. I've struggled a bit with the TV shows, to be honest with you. Like, there's a few of them I haven't even watched. I'm like, I can't really be bothered. Yeah, I mean they've been all right. They kind of, if there's one good episode and you think, oh, this is amazing, I've got to binge it, I've got to watch the next one, and then the next one I get halfway through and I'm sort of like, oh, is that my phone over there? They don't quite hold me for long enough. So I haven't watched She-Hulk or.
She-Hulk's all right because it's only like 25-minute episodes. Sorry,
and it's a comedy. So
it's very much a comedy.
It's funny. Well, it's meant to be fun. I find it funny.
My little boy really likes it. He's big into She-Hulk now.
Oh, good.
I'm not allowed to watch it without him. I have to wait. So that's the kind of level we're talking.
I think I'll get there. I'll get through them. But like, gone are the days where I'm like, oh, I can't wait for this to start. I quite liked Hawkeye. That was pretty good. I like the Christmas angle. I'm a sucker for anything, watching anything.
Christmas,
I like all that stuff, mate. So kind of that was all right. And yeah, it's just all right, isn't it? It's just all right.
What thing would put you off Marvel forever? If they brought Captain America back and you think that's just fucking stupid.
Well, yeah, I mean, it kind of would be. But if you're going to mess around with like multiverses and all that,
I suppose he could come back as a different Captain America at this point.
Yeah, that's it. But
you might get your Tom Cruise Iron Man that you've wanted, Dave.
That I would love that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Tom Cruise can do what he wants, as far as I'm concerned, right? Like, you couldn't if Tom Cruise wants to have a go at something, let him go. It's probably going to be all right. But although if he was Iron Man flying around, there wouldn't be that amazing run. I don't know how much of that we'd see. It's not a Tom Cruise film unless he sprints for something, is it really? But
I'm sure he can get him running somewhere, just
somehow.
Like his breakfast or something.
Yeah, that do. I'd take it.
I'd literally watch Tom Cruise run for his breakfast. I really would.
The most amazing thing about Tom Cruise is like he is so good and his films are so good, but you never not aware that you're watching Tom Cruise. Like, he's not that character actor where you completely fit, like, it's definitely always Tom Cruise, and yet that still really works, which is quite a strange thing when you think about it.
I think it's down to his haircuts.
Right, okay, yeah.
There's Ghost Protocol was on TV last night, and I was admiring watching that. And I was like, oh yeah, this is that era of Cruise, because he's kind of got the curtainy things going on.
Right, yeah.
So, and there's a while when he shaved all his hair, and then it's the Mission Impossible when it was a little bit long, but not too long. And now we've got, well, Maverick Cruise was different because he's trying to look like Tom Cruise. Surly.
I know what you mean. Tom Cruise, yeah, we'll go with
it's
that.
like he's got his own multiverse, the Tom Cruise multiverse, where the Tom Cruise is actually a era of Tom Cruise.
Again, watch it. If he ever went into a Marvel film, I would lose my shit. And like you said, as Iron Man. But I'll take him as anything at this point, I think.
Yeah, he'd be a good villain, I think. He'd be a good...
I'd like to watch that.
Yeah, that we'll see what he could do with that.
Does he ever play villains? I don't think he plays villains, does he? It's part of his thing. Like, he never wants to be the bad guy.
Oh, that's a great shout.
Yeah, Magnolia. He's plays a bit of a dick, but that's a very different film.
Not quite a villain though, is he? I don't know. I'd love to see a Tom Cruise villain, but I don't think he's very particular about what he does, isn't he? He has to have a lot of control over what he does. I think his personal branding is to never not be the hero again,
He's always got to look at the camera, smile and go, yes, it's me, I'm doing this crazy shit.
Yeah. In real life, the amount of control he has to have actually makes him more of a real life villain.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
He's like, I don't need to play one, I am one, so I'll just pretend to be the good guy.
What is your most disappointing sequel? Because you said earlier that there was a period in your life that you just realised that all sequels are disappointing, and that makes me sad for you. What is the most disappointing sequel? So not the worst sequel, but the one that really let you down. So you're like, oh, I built this up so big in my head, and now it's...
I don't think I could ever get past what they did with the Matrix movies. I just think that first film is just everything, and the rest are just nowhere near it. And everything was in place. There was clearly a need for it. There was a market for it. You've got the cast coming back. That's so important in a sequel. You've got when you're messing about with things like a Matrix, you can take it anywhere. You don't have to take it to the point where no one knows what's going on. You could have essentially done the same again, and it still would have been awesome.
Well, they tried that, didn't they? In the new one.
I haven't watched that. I haven't watched the new one. I can't bring myself. The fact that they're sort of self-referencing each other, and I don't know if my life.
We have a 7-star rating system on our reviews, and I gave it none. And if I could have given it less, I probably would have.
There you go. Yeah, I'm a busy man. I don't get much time to myself. If I'm going to throw 2 hours at something, I need to at least have a chance of enjoying it. And I kind of look at that. And
you're spending money on it as well.
Yeah. So I still think I might watch in 10-minute bursts. If you're waiting for the kettle to boil or having your tea and you just want something to throw on for 15 minutes while you scran something. I think you
might end up enjoying it if you watch it that way, because you'll forget what's come before it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, seeing as its own separate mini-series.
So you were a big fan of The Matrix. I take 1999 when it came out. They announced there's going to be 2 more film back-to-back. Thoughts then? Were you just like, oh my god, this is going to be the best thing ever?
Yeah. How can you not after seeing the first one? 99, I would have been late teens, early 20s, something like that. That's a good age to be excited about going to the pictures. And it was just never seen anything like it. I mean, no one had they? Because they kind of invented the technology to film it. Pretty much to film it, right? So it was just nothing that's ever been seen before.
That bullet time stuff was just...
Yeah, it's just so sick, isn't it? Yeah, and we're talking about those 80s films before, Arnie getting tooled up with loads of guns. It was like that, but flashier, and it just it has everything. I love Keanu through the 90s and stuff. That was he's sick. He's a good man, and it was just The Matrix just blew me away. Yeah, it was awesome.
And then you went in. Were you first day reloaded? Were you?
Just not.
Oh, this is gonna be amazing. This is gonna be amazing.
Yeah, and sometimes when you want something to be amazing, and because of all the effects and stuff, I think I might come out of it and go, oh yeah, that was really good. And then it's only afterwards when you think about it, you go, it really wasn't. I kind of got carried on the hype and the explosions and the noise and the experience of being in a cinema.
Yeah.
Kind of sometimes makes you kind of think that things are much better than they are, and it's only with reflection you go, actually that was really bad. I remember I got a memory on
when did this happen? Was it when you got home, or was it when you watched it a second time? Sorry.
Yeah, probably just in the days afterwards, the more I thought about it. It happened really recently with the latest Jurassic Park, except that I came out of it thinking that was really bad, and over the next few days it dawned on me how bad it actually was. And it almost took me to a point of depression, really, because I was I can't believe how bad they've made this.
Locusts.
It's so much worse than I thought. And weirdly, I had a Facebook memory recently that made me laugh, and it was me, like a status review of Batman versus Superman, and I put something about like how the film was like glorious. I think I used the word glorious to describe it.
Ooh.
And I'd obviously come out of that going, oh my god, the game has changed forever. And then you kind of like, as you watch it again, you go, yeah, this isn't glorious. It's really not glorious at all. But just floated out of the cinema, just sold, and then realised, nah, you've been lied to. And the Matrix was a similar experience for me, I think.
What do you do about those films? Do you try and convince yourself you're wrong or right, and you're like, no, I'm going to give it another watch. This must be the one that it clicks again.
I think sometimes you just have to admit it, right? Because if it's bad, it's bad. Always makes me think of like, remember like back in the day when CDs cost 15 quid?
Yes.
And if you bought one and it wasn't very good, you think, I'm going to make myself like it because I've got to save up 3 weeks to get another one.
Yeah.
And you just listen to an album again and again and again. But sometimes you would get that aha moment where you go, this is it. I just needed to listen to it in the early hours of the morning and now it all makes sense. So sometimes with some things you can force that, right? But I think with movies, you just can't. Once you've...
But a lot of the time that doesn't happen. And I'm looking at you, Top Loader, for that awful album. Thanks.
All bought off the strength of one song.
One song that they didn't even write. It was a cover.
That's it, yeah.
Hey, Achilles Heel was a great tune as well. Was that on the same album?
That's on the same album.
Yeah, that's the follow-up single, yeah. But I think with films, there's kind of like, you can't really change the mood or the atmosphere.
No.
It's like once you kind of realise it's rubbish, it's going to take some sort of, I don't know, people talking you into it to kind of go back on that, I think.
So were you talked into going to see the third one? So
I think by the time I watched the third one, I don't think I cinemaed it. I think by the time that was like just happened to, I don't know, someone was like, oh, I've got this and I'll lend it to you, and it's like, oh, well, I might as well, I've got nothing else to watch. Just kind of watched it. It was like, I don't know
it's
what I don't know what this is. I don't know what's happening. Like I can vaguely recognise these people and I know their names and that's it. I was kind of done with it by that point.
Oh wow! Because at least the second one's got a really good car chase in it.
Yeah.
It's got it's really good, and then the rest of it's rubbish, especially the ending. I hate the ending with absolute passion. And the third one, I thought it was different. The attack on Zion was pretty good, and then at the end, the smashy endy, and then Tom, I can't wait until you watch the fourth one.
Right. Well, I'm going to now. I'll watch it tonight. I think it's on Sky.
Like ITV or BBC are gonna get it for Christmas. It'll be one of their big Christmas films. They really like, hey, we've got the terrestrial premiere of Matrix, whatever it's called, Resuscitation.
Resurrection.
I was close.
Resuscitation is probably better.
So there you are.
You're thinking about what
Christmas
it
night,
needs.
full of turkey. You never had puddings all filled in. The kids are asleep, and you think, this is it now.
Yeah, I'm going in. Yeah. Oh, maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure if I can bring myself to do it. But again, when you're messing around with these sorts of things, it can come right at any time, right? So who knows? Another one might come out, and it might just be absolutely incredible.
I think some people absolutely love that movie, though. That fourth Matrix movie. There are people.
Some
out
people
there
love the
who
other ones.
absolutely love it.
Their fans are hardcore.
Yeah.
I mean, they're wrong. But,
I don't think there's ever been a film that's been so good, the first one, and the decline has been so steep.
Yeah, it's heavy, isn't it? Yeah, definitely. Especially
It hurts.
It does, yeah, with everything in place as well. There's no reason why that's rubbish. There's no reason why it's rubbish. It's it's a shame. It's a waste, isn't it? A real waste.
It's a waste.
Yeah. It's like you were saying about them inventing the new technology to do stuff with. They go, do you know what people really, really loved about the first one? All that new technology with the bullet time, the shots. Let's never do that again.
It's just
But do you think that's because people took the piss out of it in other films and stuff? I'm looking at you, Scary
I think they
Movie.
took the piss out of it. I think they lovingly parodied it because it was such a big thing, wasn't it?
It's weird that they just didn't do it. It's weird.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
And then when they sort of do it in the new one, it's I'm not going to spoil it for you, Tom, but yeah.
We're already angry, so let's go on to
Let's get more angry. Yeah.
Tom. Can't believe what I said.
Just before you say this, I'm just going to sit back and watch what happens here.
No, I've tried to
be fun.
I've tried to be cool about it. I respect your decision. Tom, what is your worst ever sequel?
I knew that this wasn't going to go down well. I've heard you talk about it on the show, and when I said my choice in the message, and I got back a message that said "Wow," I know I thought I've done it here, but I'm here for the controversy. I'm going Back to the Future 2.
Okay, why? Why?
No one can see, but just looking at Dave's face right now.
I know, he's broken, isn't he? Yeah.
He loves this movie.
It's the best one. Carry on.
Oh no, Dave. No, it's not. Similar to the Matrix in that the first Back to the Future, is just a complete film, isn't it? It's just like it's perfect in every way. And we're dealing with time travel. You can go anywhere. You can do anything. And to me, Back to the Future 2 feels like they've just kind of made something up on the spot. Like Lost, yeah. 'Cause, like, you remember Lost? They put the pilot out, and then it got commissioned, and they're like, "Oh crap! Now we need to like actually take this somewhere." And that's what Back to the Future 2 is essentially, isn't it? And where to start? The bit in the future is just awful. I know obviously we need to look at it through the lens of when it was made and when it was written, but how can anyone think that the future would look like that? To me, that's what the 80s looked like kids running around with like colanders on their heads and stuff. It's just I'm not having it. It's really overacted. It reminded me of when I was in school and you'd kind of get a brief for your GCSE drama, and everyone would like try and cram as much everything into every scene because we're really like pretentious teenagers, and that's kind of how I feel about all the stuff that goes in the future. It's really overacted. I don't like Michael J. Fox playing his own kids. It's just awful. He's really hamming it up. I'm not taking it. And there's that element, isn't there, in all of the movies of people playing their past or future selves, but the bits in the future where he's playing his children are just really, really bad.
That is bad. I'm going to agree with you on that one. Like the family scene where he's kind of playing the kids and stuff. That I feel like that too.
Yeah.
It's not. Maybe Eddie Murphy can get away with it, but.
But not Michael J. Fox.
Not Michael J. Fox.
I was watching it. I love Michael J. Fox, particularly around that sort of like 80s into the 90s period, where he was really like killing it. I was just watching it. I was just thinking, you're better than that, Mike. You're better than that. What? Don't lower yourself. You don't need this. And it's just not. I'm not here for it. And then the middle bit, where they're back in 85, and I see that looks to me more like the future. If they'd have made their version of 85 2015, I might have been right. I'm on board with this, right? Because that kind of looks like, that kind of looks a bit more like we're used to. But again, it's the overacting for me, and the teacher running around with a shotgun, and people just drive past the teacher's house and just open fire, and you think that's not, yeah, I'm just not having it, not down with it. And then if you can go anywhere in time, why go back to the first one and start messing about with all that? You've done it so well. You've done the 50s. It was amazing. It's one of the best films ever, and you're going to go back and start screwing with it. I just couldn't get on board with it, to be honest. You think of where they, and I don't know if this is going to be equally controversial. I really like number 3, but that's what I want from a time travel movie. I want you to go and be a cowboy or a Viking, or go somewhere else. Don't go back to the first film and look at it from a different angle. I'm not interested.
On this podcast, we're historically, famously, people tell us their worst and best, and me and Rich like, yeah, those people are right, and everything you've just said, I'm like, yeah. That does happen. But I still love it. 1, hoverboards. Hoverboards are cool.
I'll give you hoverboards. Okay. Yeah, definitely. And I like what they do with them when they make an appearance at the back end of the film as well. So, yeah, it's cool.
See, it's a good callback. 2, it takes the good bits of Back to the Future 1 and then adds better bits to Back to the Future 1. You're okay. Like, no.
Yeah. I mean, did it need more? But it's clever. It is clever what they do.
But you're right, Tom. But it's still a brilliant film. Rich, do you like this film? I'm not.
I mean, I'm probably in between the two of you. It's not my favourite one.
You're a 1, 2, 3 person, are you?
I'm a 1, 2, 3 person. But actually, thinking about it, I mean, 2 and 3 are very close for me. I really do. I do quite like 3. But yeah, for me, the first one's the best one by a long stretch. I think the idea of going back. The problem with 2 is, for me, is that it opens. There are so many plot holes in it. It's like a Swiss. The plot is like Swiss cheese. There's so many plot holes because they go back and they change the past to then change the future. But everything they do changes the past. So everything changes all the time. Like it always changes. Like everything. Like Marty could go back and step on a twig, and that would mean that he doesn't exist. That's everything could change the past and the future. So. I don't know. It's a weird one. And does that mean there's more timelines? Do timelines exist? Do these just, do they self-correct somehow? How does this all work? How does the science work? Dave, tell me. I need to know.
We'll find out soon. I'm not a smart person. Tom, when did your love or hate for this franchise start? Was it you watched it Back to the Future early and then you couldn't wait for the second one and then it let you down? Because a lot of people our age love the second Back to the Future.
Yeah, I don't really remember I'm trying to think about like my age around about that time. The first Back to the Future is one of them movies. It's a bit like a nursery rhyme in that I don't remember ever first hearing a nursery rhyme, and yet I was able to sing them to my kids without trying to have to relearn the lyrics. Right? It's just always, it's part of my DNA. It's just always been there. I've always known that film. That's how I see Back to the Future. So I don't really. It's just always been there, and somewhere. Back to the Future 2 was more likely to be, like I mentioned at the start, being in the video shop and being like, oh my gosh, there's a second one. I need to watch it now. And then rushing home and being like, yeah, what is this? Where is...
I've seen this film.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I've seen a better version of it. I just you think at the end of Back to the Future 1 and the doc turns up and he says, it's your kids, Marty. And you think like, oh my God, what is this? And then at the start of 2, you find out, oh yeah, his kid's like, he's going to be naughty and go to prison. Is that enough to...
Well, it's because they didn't have an idea. Apparently there's like 4 or 5 endings where Christopher Lloyd just makes stuff up. It's just ad-libbed. And so that's just the one that they thought was the best.
And they wrote themselves into a
corner. No plans for it whatsoever. And then they're like, oh crap, we've actually got to do something with his kids in number 2.
Yeah. But I mean, if you think of all the awful things that could have happened to Marty's kids or that they could have go on to do. I mean, people like commit crime and go to prison all the time. That's kind of what happens. It's just, is that enough to whiz Back to the Future? You think, well, he's clearly, maybe he's got to learn his lesson. Maybe he shouldn't be knocking around. He
does seem a bit of a dick, the boy.
He does a bit, yeah. And, the reliance on being able to manipulate the plot by calling someone a chicken is just like... It happens too many times. We know that's a weak point for him. We know. And fair play, fire it up again, maybe even twice. But you get to the point when it's like, it happens a few times in number 2. And you think, really, this whole chicken thing again? Has he not learned? Has no one learnt from this?
And the whole thing with the solution to the kids is going back to help them so that they don't get into, they don't turn out to be terrible people. By then creating a new timeline where they don't exist. It's like, not just going back and changing it and making their lives better, you're destroying them.
Yeah, you had one chance, you were going to mess it up, so we're just not going to bother with any of it now.
Sorry.
I'm taking me ball home. Yeah.
Yeah, you're sorry. Your punishment for going to prison and not being perfect is you're now no longer going to exist. Sorry.
Serves you
I'm going to
right.
have different children.
But do you not think the instant pizza's cool and stuff like that?
I mean, yes. Yeah, I mean, all right. I mean, I don't like...
the shoes are cool.
The shoes are really cool.
The self-tying shoes are cool.
I've got a pair of trainers that I bought there because they're the closest thing I can... They look like those shoes. They're downstairs, but...
I mean, if only Neo in Matrix 2 had had a tiny pizza that turned into a big one and a pair of Reebok pumps, then that would have saved the whole franchise, right?
So how would you made Back to the Future 2 better? Would you have liked to seen him in, like you said, a different time? And what time would you have liked to seen? Because you have to go... I guess you have to go Back to the Future? Does that title even work? Because he does go to the future, but doesn't go back to the future. But he's come from the present. Do you see what I'm going?
It doesn't work in the first one either.
Yeah.
Because he never goes to the future in the first one.
No, but he does go back... Goes to the past, but he has to go back.
Yeah, but that's Marty's present, so it should be called Back to the Present.
Yeah. Hasn't quite got the same ring to it, Rick.
No, that's it. I think if you're going to mess about with time, then let's just go for it, man. You've got a time machine, and I think that's why I like 3 so much, man, because I dig Cowboys. What's not to like? And it's a good film. I like everything that they do with it. You kind of like, you buy into I bought into just the scenery and the vibe and the tone of it. It doesn't look like a load of people, like, it doesn't look like forced cowboys. It kind of feels like a Western film,
It is well shot, that one.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. It's really, really good. And I kind of like, I'm up for that. So hop in your time machine, go somewhere else, go and go and visit anytime you want. Go to the swinging 60s or any big moments from history. Go and
you wouldn't have to do something with the kids, because what they end up in the cowboy times by accident, don't they? By making a mistake. You could go off to try to go to the future to save Marty's kids, make a mistake, and end up somewhere completely different.
Yeah.
You know, end up in like 2046 or something. And,
that's it, yeah.
You know,
they could stumble around in different aspects of time for another 2 movies and end up saving his kids completely by accident. It just
Would you have liked to seen Alien?
I mean, you know, no. If I'm gonna, I'm trying to find a way to say yes, but I'm not sure how Aliens would have helped. Not really. No, sorry, dude.
but maybe go off to the future and there's some sort of, you know, dystopian nightmares occurred where like everyone's zombies or something, or you know, half the world died of
This is getting dark.
climate change.
This is going to be a family film.
You've got to make some real changes to like save the world, not just save your kids from going to prison by making them not exist.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
Yeah,
to actually like save the planet, kind of thing.
Yeah, he's not.
There's loads of potential.
Yeah, that's it. He's not going back after like baby Hitler or anything, is he? He's like only thinking about his own spoiled kids. Yeah, and I've never really thought of it from that perspective. But yeah, he could just do so much more. Yeah, much more if you're gonna
So
help.
how would you rank the Back to the Future films? Are you a 3-1-2 man or a 1-3-2 man?
1-3-2. Yeah, definitely. Like you can't. Like one is just you can't debate it. You can't argue it. I wouldn't even entertain that. If someone tried, I'd just be like, yeah, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not getting
so
involved.
You've got children.
Yes.
How old are your children now?
My eldest is 6, and my she's 4. She's about to turn 5.
We're getting into Back to the Future age soon.
Yeah, not far. That'll be that's one of those sort of parenting, you know, when all the like, when all the crap pays off, when you get to like introduce them to. My wife's a massive Harry Potter fan, and she's just sort of started. Well, she started them on the Philosopher's Stone. I think she's gone too soon because she's going to have to kind of like pause for a few years before they're ready for the scary ones.
He's only 6-year-old, all of them, I think.
Really?
He's 7, and he's seen them all. Yeah.
Oh, how did
My wife's a massive Harry Potter fan as well, and she started him way too early, and we just couldn't hold it back anymore.
Yeah.
Same with Jurassic Park,
which is scary, guys.
Yeah, which is scary. Yeah, he watched Jurassic Park when he was like 4. So, I'm not a good parent. It turns out.
Hey, if he's ready, right?
Yeah.
And he wasn't scared by it at all. He wasn't that fun. I don't think he particularly liked the later Harry Potters very much because they're not quite as. They're a bit more serious. They're not quite as magic-y.
Yeah, I suppose you can't relate as a little kid. You relate to the other little kids, right? And like, when you're 6 and you're looking at like how old Harry by the end, like 15 or something, like 15 to a 6-year-old is like an old man.
The spells are starting to get more complicated, and when they started talking about Horcruxes and stuff, that's going probably over their heads a bit, to be honest.
Yeah, and people are, they're starting to like invite people to dances and have kisses and stuff like that. Like, yeah, that's disgusting, isn't it? When when you're 6, so but so no, Back to the Future will be a
and will you go Back to the Future 2?
I think you kind of got to. I think, like, as a parent, you got to let your kids. And Marty should learn from this. You got to let your kids make their own mistakes, right? And they can make their own decisions. Yeah, they make their own decisions and do with it what they will. Yeah.
To be fair, and it's Marty's fault because the whole gambling thing, and so that's the thing that really kicks it all into play.
That's it. Yeah, he should go back and sort himself out. Be a better role model. Yeah.
Well, now I'm just confused, Tom.
Well, you're less angry, so I'll take.
That's true. Yeah, definitely not as angry as I thought you were going to be, Dave.
Well, I have to listen to his points, and honestly, they're really good.
Oh, thank you. We'll see what the feedback is. I was on a podcast once, and someone asked me what's something that's overrated, and I said roast dinners, and people came after me. Like people didn't like that at all. I'm still defending that one. Yeah.
Well, again, that is mental.
I mean, a good roast dinner is incredible, but a bad roast dinner is just awful.
That's it.
Imagine if you're watching having a roast dinner while watching Back to the Future 2. Is that your worst nightmare?
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Very, very. Someone's getting smashed in my house if that's the situation I found myself in.
Is there any way, if they did a 4th one, and there's no way it's going to happen, and hopefully they never do a reboot, it's one of those films that shouldn't be touched.
Very much.
Yeah. If they did a 4th one, how excited about it would you be? Would they have to bring back Christopher Lloyd, Michael J. Fox at some point?
I think that you'd have to, right? You couldn't watch a Back to the Future without those two. I just can't see how that would even be Back to the Future. It would just be insulting. It's one of those things because of how good that first one is. You're always going to have there's always that glimmer of hope, that a mixture of nostalgia and to see what they could do with it. And imagine if they didn't got everything right. It could be amazing. It's probably not going to. It's probably going to be like that third Jurassic Park we talked about before. Where you just kind of want so much from it and get nothing. And I think that's probably what would happen. But yeah, I'd be here for it. I'd certainly have to just go in and hope for the best.
Yeah, they would change the car though, wouldn't they? Would they use the DeLorean, or would they try and update it in a way and be like, okay, let's put it in a Tesla now?
Oh, I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah,
Rich is the car man, so he'd be like, what would be good as a traveling like a
Nothing. It can only be a DeLorean.
Peugeot
That's
Clio?
End of the story. It's like Ecto 1 can only be Ecto 1. The DeLorean can only be the DeLorean. That's it.
That's the rules.
End of story.
What is been the sequel that surprised you the most?
Oh, that's a good that's a really, really good question.
So maybe you were dragged to it, or the first one you went in lukewarm. Not even the first one, the first, fourth, fifth, sixth, because sequels go on forever nowadays.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna have to.
It certainly wasn't Jurassic Park Dominion.
No, it wasn't. I really like Jurassic World. I really liked that. Yeah, I was all in on that. And again, I wasn't sure because like the Lost World's rubbish and Jurassic Park 3's rubbish, I think. So I wasn't quite sure. So yeah, that would be one that I kind of went into thinking, oh, please don't be rubbish. I really don't want this to be rubbish. And it was really, really good. It had a good mix of moving it forward and nostalgia and everything tied up in together. So that was probably a surprise. Yeah, that was probably a nice surprise.
But not the ones after.
No, not the ones after. The middle one of the second trilogy was that was better on reflection. I saw it at the cinema and was like, yeah, I don't like that. And then I watched it when it was on Netflix for a bit, and I think I watched it again and thought,
yeah,
do
you think that comes into play sometimes, where you watch it, how you watch it, mood you're in when you watch films? When you go and see a film, do you make sure you're in a good mood, or sometimes if you're in a bad mood, does it cheer you up kind of thing?
Yeah, I love the cinema experience,
Okay, we're gonna have to talk about your cinema experience and what do you do to prep yourself for it. Snacks and stuff. So carry on.
Yeah, well, it's but I like to me it's not just something to like nip and do. Do you know what I mean? It would be like a date night or a focus of our Friday night, and I like to watch the trailers, and I like the whole thing of it. I like it on the opening weekend when it's really busy and there's like chatter around everywhere and it's all quite exciting, and it just feels like a big thing to do rather than like this little throwaway thing where you sometimes you like have to take the kids and you end up in there at like 11:30 and a screen with like no one in it, and it just feels like such a waste of a cinema experience. But so I kind of I like the occasion of it. And I've lost my train of thought. What was the question, Dave? How did we end up going down this route?
I don't know. That's what I do.
No.
Do you buy snacks and stuff? Do you do you bring them from home? Are you an ice cream person?
I buy snacks. I don't do ice cream. I'm a large salted popcorn, large Diet Coke every time. And I wait for the film to start before I start eating. So I get in. I put the popcorn under my seat. And I wait, and as soon as the lights go down and it starts, then I go, right, now we kick back and get into it. Because otherwise, like I'm quite
I
speed
finish
eater,
my
and I'll
food
probably get halfway through.
Maybe by the time the trailers ends, and then I'm disappointed. And then I look at and then I look at what everyone my missus has, and it's like, she's not going to finish them.
That's it, yeah. And if it's a long film, so if I know, like, if you know ahead of time it's a long one, then I'll usually like double up with a big bag of Maltesers or something like that. But I don't like nachos and all that. I don't, I'm not down for noisy. I mean, all food's a bit noisy in the cinema, but not for the really noisy stuff. I certainly don't want the smelly stuff anyway. Don't bring your fake hot dog covered in really, pungent ketchup. Don't bring that near me in the pictures, man. I'm trying to relax. That's my routine. It's a very basic one, but it's the same one I've followed since childhood, and I don't think I could break it now, even if I.
They do all sorts of crazy food. They do like pizza and stuff in the cinema now.
It depends on the cinema, I think.
Yeah. Well, they're doing our one, Dave.
Do they?
When we go to, you can get pizza. And
do you when you were young? Do you used to go to a much smaller cinema? Do you miss that feeling, or was it always like a big cinema?
No, I don't. It would have been I would have been like a proper grown up before I went to like a big, like a chain, like an Odeon or something. Yeah, there was like a little independent. I grew up in a little seaside town, and there was one cinema, and it was like a little indie one, with like 2 or 3 screens maybe, and that was it. And
exactly the sort of thing you're talking
every
about.
film I saw there.
We talked about Batman versus Superman, and I watched that in Bognor Regis in like the tiniest little old school independent cinema ever, which looks amazingly quaint, but when you're 6'6" and ginormous like me, it's not very comfortable.
It's a beautiful room though, that one. I saw Civil War in that same cinema, Rich.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, and it cost me less. This is in Bognor Regis, guys, and I lived in London. It cost me less to travel to Bognor Regis, watch a film with my friend with popcorn and a drink, than it would pay for a cinema ticket.
Yeah,
in Central
I do think like cinema has been sort of like a bit on the decline, hasn't it? For it, like the pandemic hit it pretty hard, and I do think like with some like the music industry, once everyone twigged we were paying 15 quid for a CD that was only costing 50p to make, and it was the artists weren't even getting the money, and everyone were I'm just going to invent Napster and just completely destroy the music industry. I can't help feel that cinemas go in that same way. I think when you think about how much popcorn costs for them versus how much we pay for it, and I think people are like, you go to
price
if
amazing,
I take the kids to the cinema and I feed them there and we all have a ticket and a drink and something, that's a 40-50 quid afternoon out, that's a lot it's hard going.
If
that's people are going to come a cropper, man, and it's a real shame because it's an important way to see that art, isn't it? It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
It's the best.
It's magic.
Yeah.
When you're young, cinema is magic. When you first walk into a cinema screen and there's a big TV that big, and you're like, Christ, I've never seen anything that big. It still sticks with me now. I still get excited walking to the cinema, especially going to the BFI. The screens have to get bigger for me to do this now. But the first time I went to the BFI IMAX, and the one in London, incredible. That I had that same feeling I had when I was a little boy. It was amazing. And I took my dad recently to start taking him there for films he really likes. So Dunkirk, and we went and saw Top Gun Maverick because we're big Top Guns. When he's like, "This is the best way to watch cinema." So seeing a 65-year-old man still get excited about going to the cinema and stuff, it's really cool. But I don't think any cinema ticket should be above £10. Pretty much, there should be a limit.
We're probably the reason that cinema chains are on decline, aren't they, Dave? Because we have an unlimited card which we use really quite regularly.
I think they're worth it.
And don't buy any snacks.
I bring stuff with me.
It's the way to do it.
Big one now. What is your dream sequel?
My dream sequel would be any sort of follow up whatsoever to Interstellar.
Okay.
I just that I love that movie so much, and weirdly off the back of a conversation about being excited about cinema and excited about film and that childhood thing, Interstellar was one of the few times as an adult that I've really experienced that excitement as a child. And I remember it when it came out. I remember it being like, oh, this is Interstellar week. What are you doing on Monday? Oh, it's nearly Friday. I'm going to see. And I'm not really one for wishing my week away. That's not really how I operate. But I remember that week, it was very much like, I cannot wait to see this film.
And what did that? Was it the trailer? Was it because it was a Christopher Nolan film? What was it?
Nolan, definitely. Yeah. And at that time, Matthew McConaughey was just on fire after years in the rom-com wilderness where he was more famous for smoking weed and having a six-pack. Then suddenly he just did that run of films, didn't he? And he was just so good. And it was like, hang on a minute, Nolan is doing a film in space with Matthew McConaughey. Sign me up now.
With Hans Zimmer doing the music.
That's it. And I remember going into it and thinking, this is the first time in years, probably after years of mostly getting excited about Marvel movies, but this is the first time in years that I've gone into a film, I don't know what's going to happen. It's a completely original screenplay. It's not a remake, a follow-up. It's not got any characters from anywhere else. And that happens less and less these days. Everything is somehow tied in some way. And Interstellar was really I don't know. I'd not watched any trailers because it was called Interstellar. I had no idea that the first 40 minutes was not going to be in space. I had no idea there was any on Earth time. I remember oh my God, this is amazing. I'm an hour in and they're not even in space. This is incredible. And it reminded me of, as a kid going to see the big standouts like Jurassic Park or, those ones that really would just blow you away when you see it. Or the Matrix, you know,
The Lion King.
The Lion King, yeah, The Lion King 2, The Ballad of Pumbaa, or whatever it's called. But but Interstellar, it just felt massive. I just loved it so much. And when I remember being in the cinema, and when there was some of the shots are outside the spaceships and there's no music, it's completely quiet. And I remember watching that, and the whole cinema was quiet. And no one was like risking a cheeky nacho. It was one of those where you go, I'm just not going to eat. You know, normally I'm there like just shoveling popcorn for the whole thing. And it was just everyone, it was just completely quiet. I've never really experienced that before. There's normally like a rustle or a cough or something, but it was just so quiet. And then when it finished, no one got up. It was like we were waiting for an end sequence, but obviously no one was. I think everyone was just like, "What the heck was that?" And it just took everyone about 2 minutes to sort of like, "Oh right, now my feet are working again. I can leave."
Oh, I love that.
It was a strangest thing. It just seemed to collectively knock the whole room for six.
Yeah.
And again, it's not something I'd really experienced as an adult much. It's much more like a kid thing for me. That. But yeah, I just love everything about it.
Oh, I love it. Rich, this is the first time last night you watched it, right?
I watched it last night, and I got a bit confused. I'm going to admit, I got a bit confused. I thought we were recording with a different guest today, and I thought I was watching a nice short movie. So it was about 10 o'clock last night, and I messaged Dave, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to watch this," and he went back and go, "Oh no, we're not recording that one tomorrow." And I was like, "Oh, we're going to watch Interstellar." Oh, it's 3 hours long. I was like, I'm going to fall asleep, and I didn't fall asleep at all.
It's engaging.
I think it's really engaging, and actually I think it's a movie you can kind of break down into thirds. Like there's the first third where it's totally on Earth, there's the second hour where it's about discovering all those new worlds, then there's like kind of the last hour where it's the bit I don't get, that bit I don't understand, but
Yeah,
it still
Tom,
looks
can you
great.
explain the ending so we can understand how you want to do a sequel to it?
Well, I'm not sure I can explain it, to be honest. I'm happy to just go with it. There's a few films I find like this, and it's like Inception's a bit like this for me as well. Is that I understand it, but I'm not sure I could put that understanding into words.
Yeah.
Like,
We need Professor Brian Cox. If we were a decent podcast, we'd have Professor Brian Cox on hand to pop up now and go, "This is how it works."
This is what happens.
Because I don't get the cosmic library.
No, me neither. I mean,
it looks and sounds amazing, and like you said, McConaughey is rocking it, and you're cutting back to Chastain. I was watching it just before I came on to interview this, and I was like, I've got to try and understand this. I've read about it, and I still cannot grasp it. It's like Tenet. When I came out of Tenet, I was like, I've never enjoyed a movie that much and still not understand a fucking thing what was going on.
it's exactly the same.
Like
yeah.
Interstellar, I'm getting it until that point, until they go, hey, we're going to fly into Gargantuan kind of thing and whip around it, and then McConaughey,
I mean, essentially what they do is impossible, right? Because the event horizon of a black hole, as far as I understand, is that essentially time slows down so much that it stops. So time stops being a dimension when you get to the event horizon of a black hole.
Yeah, there's 5. They're talking about fifth dimensions and third dimensions. And
Yeah. So they're saying that humans have evolved to live in the fifth dimension. But what's the fifth dimension?
I think what you need to do, Rich, is draw a circle on a bit of paper, fold it in half, and put a pen through it, and then it all just makes sense. That's normally how we describe time and black holes, right? That's the way to do it. Yeah. But even with that bit, I had no idea it was going to go somewhere that weird. And when they're on the planet where there's the difference between time, and they come off the planet, they've only been there an hour or whatever, and the guy's done 20.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
that is absolutely heartbreaking. And when he goes back and watch all those videos, I was like, I've shed a tear to that, and it's still, it's not, even watching it since, I've shed a tear to that. You know, like the impact stays even when you know it's coming. So we go for all that, and I thought, right, that's the Trippy Nolan bit. You know, that's
and to that bit, I'm with it. I get that. I understand that.
I like it.
It's closer to the black hole, therefore time slows down. Yeah, I get that. I understand
that's
that.
It. So I kind of thought, that's the weird Nolan bit, you know, that I'm not quite supposed to understand. And then, right at the end, all of a sudden, he just appears in that space, and it goes quiet, doesn't it? The whole tone of the film changes, and I kind of, what the is this? You know, like it really caught me off guard. I did not see. I mean, how could you see that coming? But I think to have a mixture of like the action and the adventure and the emotion and the bonkers science, it just all put together.
And the sheer scale of it as well.
Yeah, like,
the
it's
scale,
huge, isn't it? Yeah, and that's why I think it would be a good sequel, because if you're gonna, if you can just like, I don't know, peer in some sort of weird dimension behind your own library and look at yourself somehow, well, you can do anything you want with that, can't you? Like they can't, they could take it anywhere. So that gives us a good platform to kind of launch any sort of sequel. Like, it doesn't matter. If you're going to buy into that, you can buy into what they do next. And
would it have to be McConaughey, those characters again, or would you try to tell a different story using that science, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would prefer McConaughey.
He's amazing.
I would prefer that. But I think with someone like Christopher Nolan, you could just trust him.
So he would be your director of choice, because
yeah,
there's only like maybe 2 directors that can handle this. Yeah. I would put Nolan and Denis Villeneuve together. They're the only people that can make big scale films at the moment that don't make a lick of sense, but they look amazing, and you think, I will turn up to everything these people do.
Yeah, I'll go in blind. I'll trust it.
Yeah,
I'll like it even if I don't get it. Yeah, just 100%. 100% on board. I mean, they could, instead of McConaughey, they could chuck in Dolph Lundgren and get the director from Kindergarten Cop 2 in. I think that would be interesting. But no, if it's Nolan, they can do whatever he can do what he wants, and it's going to be good, right? So, but yeah, ideally McConaughey, because like the 2 main areas I thought is like, well, we could see more of Murph's side of the story. So, obviously she's so old by the time he says his goodbyes, and you think, well, there's a whole thing of how she kind of saves the planet and, makes everything look like it does in Inception. And,
and how does she do that? Where'd that come from? I understand that he gives her the equation, but what's the equation
what's
for?
Next? Yeah.
Well, that's the eureka moment when she throws it at the end.
Yeah. And then, and then it fast forward. So there's that. There's a big gap there that could make a really like thrilling film. Or there's, at the end, McConaughey just goes back into space, and Anne Hathaway's knocking around on that planet. We don't quite know what she found there. Could he catch her up? Could they spend another 3 hours trying to bump into each other through a wormhole? Like, do whatever you want, Christopher Nolan.
Because that's what he's gone off to do, hasn't he? He's gone off to...
That's how I read it, yeah.
To go and save her or find her. Or,
chances... I kind of saw it as she's rocked up there, and that fella she was hoping to reunite with, she now knows that, that that's not an option anymore.
Yeah.
And just when she's thinking, like, my boyfriend's dead and I'm stuck on this planet, and then McConaughey's just like comes out behind a rock, like, all right, and boom, we're straight into a sequel. Fantastic.
I would love it if the sequel was so different. They just called it Interstellar 2, but it's about McConaughey and Anne Hathaway just trying to like The Martian, make a new home on a planet.
Yeah,
and then
just
they make like
struggling to make ends meet on an alien planet.
Well, he is a farmer, right? He is a farmer, so he could start
right in itself.
Yeah, he could just start growing his crops, and and just start all over again. Maybe that's an option. But yeah, you could take it anywhere, you like. But what a movie, man! I just love it. I just love it so much. I don't think I'll ever get bored of it.
How many times have you watched it?
A lot. I don't know how many, but a lot. I've done it a lot of like half times as well. When you're so familiar with a film, you don't even have to finish it. It's like, I've got an hour and I probably should be going to bed. I'll just throw Interstellar on and just like enjoy the first hour and then go to bed and not watch the rest. But it doesn't matter because I've seen the rest so many times that's all right. And like I say, for some of the more emotional bit, when he's like banging on the books and shouting for Murph, that's heavy, man. You know what I mean? That's a hard watch that can leave you in a place if you're not careful. But
did it surprise you when Matt Damon popped up? Because I had no idea he was in this movie until they did really well of keeping him completely out of everything, like spoiler wise.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't see that at all. I didn't know Casey Affleck was in it as well until I kind of saw him in the. I can't quite remember, but I'm sure the trailers and any sort of spoilers were minimal and very vague around the.
Nolan's very good at keeping that kind of thing subtle. Even with this new film coming out about Oppenheimer, the trailer doesn't give. I know it's about the man who makes the bomb or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But how to make a movie out of that, I don't know. But I'm going to be there.
100%.
And I'm sure it's going to look visually incredible. And Hans Zimmer's going to do the music, and I'm just going to listen to that soundtrack. Like this, like watching it again yesterday and today, I was like, oh my God, that soundtrack is just, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's so good.
No, it is. It's everything. Even the way the film is made, some of it is so like the CGI and everything is so good. And other times it looks like a model. You can tell someone's built it, and you're like, I don't care. It just looks like a spaceship struggling in space, and I'm here for that too. It's like it's just everything about it is just really really.
You see, with me, I really enjoyed the first 2/3, but when I first watched it, that last bit really did put a downer on it for me. I've learned to accept now that I'll never understand it. Just appreciate for what it is, and then it's, a Nolan film and sounds good, looks good. And I didn't get to see it in the cinema at the time because it was the poorest I've ever been. I was a runner at a post-production place, and they earn literally no money, so I had to wait until it came out on like TV. And I don't think it has the scale. I would love to see this in the cinema.
Yeah. I bet it's impressive at the cinema, yeah.
I think that's the way. Maybe I wouldn't be so romantic about it if I hadn't have had such a romantic experience of watching it. Maybe I think it probably would see it differently. And I'm going to watch it again. I'm going to throw it on tonight, I think, and I'm going to watch that end bit and just
with the kids,
see
right?
if I do.
I think they're ready for it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, drop them straight in. You've had the Philosopher's Stone. I think you're ready. We'll skip Back to the Future.
Now it's Einsteinian quantum physics. If you get your head around it.
I mean, it's not scary. It's not scary, love.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and I've got this bit of paper with a circle on it. I'm ready to try and break it down. Yeah.
So those were Tom Davies's Unequal Sequels. What a top lad. Really liked him. It was a lovely time.
Lovely chat, wasn't it?
It was.
He was a splendid gentleman. Really enjoyed recording with Tom. He's a superb human being, and we don't deserve it.
I like how you slipped into being a Victorian stable boy then. You were like, he's a superb gentleman.
Guys, me and Rich both have the flu,
We do,
so
yeah,
if this comes off as two people going mental. Yes, Sir Tom.
Sir Tom. Oh, we've knighted him now. We like doing the podcast that much. We've decided that Tom needs to be knighted.
Well, he deserves it.
He does.
You know,
His podcast is great.
It's really good
is
podcast.
good.
You should listen to it. It's a good thing that he does it. To be honest,
Yeah, it's a brilliant podcast, and you can tell that he really loves his subject. He really loves doing it, and he always has really good guests, and it's really insightful and really helpful as well.
Really helpful.
Yeah, but also what great picks! I say great picks. One's quite a hot take. Like Dave was a bit upset about one of them. So yeah, Winter Soldier for best sequel. I mean, probably the best of the Marvel sequels.
It's definitely up there, isn't it? When you're thinking top quality Marvel films, Winter Soldier's in the conversation.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't be my top one, but it would be a lot of people's because it's very different. It was very exciting.
Yeah.
It's like a spy action thriller for a Marvel film, and had a good bad guy, and Chris Evans as Captain America is just at this point it was just awesome. He really owned this
absolutely.
film.
You're right. Yeah, really good choice. And his choice for worst sequel, Dave. I mean, when we saw what it picked, then I think Dave went into the corner and had a little word with himself, didn't you, mate?
Come on now. Back to the Future 2 is your worst ever. His arguments were really good, actually.
He did make you question yourself, didn't he?
Well, not just to question the film, he made me question life. I think if I question that, if I don't like Back to the Future 2, then I have to think, what is the
What
point?
am I even here for?
What's the point of humanity? Yeah, what is my purpose?
I don't agree.
What is men's purpose on this planet?
Yeah, I don't think it's the worst sequel ever. I don't think it's the best of the trilogy like you do, but I don't think it's the worst.
I think it's superb.
I think it's got some big plot holes in it for me. That's the main thing.
Yeah, but it's so fun, Rich. It's so fun.
It is fun. It is fun. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think it's a great movie. I really do. I think it's a great sequel. I disagree with Tom in that respect, but I do agree with him that it's not the best of the trilogy.
And I didn't like disagreeing with Tom because he's such a lovely chap. But he nearly made me believe that it was a bad film. But I've now stepped away for a minute, and I thought, no, he's wrong. His dream sequel, lovely, interesting one. Interstellar.
Yeah.
Still don't understand the ending.
No, not really. I'm getting there. The more I watch it, the more I kind of get it. but I'm still not 100% there yet.
How many more watches do you think you're going to give it to get the ending?
50 or so, probably.
It's a really weird film like that because it's not a film I completely understand or know what's going on, but it's so well crafted.
It's very
like the
watchable,
music.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, it's like Tenet. Christopher Nolan's very good at these films. Like, I don't understand what the fuck's going on for most of it, but they're so well put together, like the music and the way the acting. I'm like, oh, I don't care. I'm in this. I'm enjoying it for some dumb reason. A sequel would be very tough. We gave it a good go. Hopefully, people will let us know if it was a good one or a bad one.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see what other people think, wouldn't it? It'd be nice to see what you listeners think of an Interstellar sequel. What would your ideas be for an Interstellar sequel? If you want to let us know what your ideas are, there's a very easy way for us to get in touch with us. It's on all the social media at Unequal Sequel on Twitter and on Instagram. You can also send us an email, unequalsequel@hotmail.com. And if you also really like what we're doing and you want more of what we're doing, you've now got an opportunity to have a little bit of extra. So if you really like this episode with Tom, then there is an extra. There's a sequel to this episode. And and all you need to do is to go to anotherslice.com/unequal sequel, become a subscriber for only $2.99 a month. It's peanuts, and you'll get all the sequels to all our interview episodes. What you'll also get is the opportunity to have some input into other extra content we're going to do. Maybe even come on the show and do your best, worst and dream sequels. So yeah, get onto Another Slice, sign up there, let us know what you think, let us know some ideas for extra content that you'd like on there too. Like I say, just click the little subscribe button. Also, we know not everyone can afford to do $2.99 a month. It's fine. It's okay. We're still keeping all this stuff for free. If you like what we do and you like all the free stuff, go and click the subscribe button. Go and click the automatic download button on your pod shop of choice, and we'll drop in twice a week during the season, our interview season, and once a week when we're out of season. So you'll always still be getting a bit of us for free. Don't worry, we're not going completely behind the paywall. That would be crazy. We're not Joe Rogan, are we? Come on. Thank God. But yeah, so do that. Subscribe. Whilst you're there, give us a little rating, 5 stars, a like, a tick, all that kind of stuff. Even write us a little review if you want. Nobody can see me, but I'm kind of tapping out on an imaginary typewriter like I'm on the end of Murder, She Wrote. But yeah, if you want to write us a little review, we'd love that. It'd be great. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. Tell their friends. Tell your family. Tell their family. Tell your grandparents. They'll love us.
Write a little note and leave it on a car parked outside your house. Yeah.
If anyone wants to take like a newspaper article out for us, that'd be really nice. Yes, please check out Another Slice.
Anotherslice.com/unequal sequel.
There's already two extras.
Two sequels,
so I have to get the wording right, of Jamal and Boyd with their extra chats. I've got some crazy ideas that Rich is going to fucking hate, but he's going to love doing them. Or is it the wrong way round? He's going to love doing them, but he's going to fucking hate them.
Yeah, which way? Either way. I'm going to complain.
He's going to love it.
And then I'm going to actually enjoy it when we do it.
It's going to be fun. So I've got nothing else to say from me. Rich, you got anything to say?
That's it. All done.
Okay, it is a Jojin from me. Ooh. That's Cantonese for goodbye, apparently.
Very nice.
And a bye-bye from him.
Bye!
See you next week. It's going to be a good one. Let's just blast through it, and hopefully we're all healthy by that point.
Yay.
Please, God. See you later. Bye-bye. Feel like shit. Do you feel like shit?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, God. It's going to be okay.